This is Harley Hartwell, and you're listening to the Case Closed Podcast.
You are listening to the Case Closed Podcast, and I'm your host, Professor C. We have a ton of stuff to talk about today, guys. We're going to be going over the Episode 1 release and the dub, and not only the release from July 28th that is supposed to be next month, obviously, but the Blu-rays are shipping out early. People started getting their copies a week ago from Right Stuf, so there is definitely an early release window for it. Once that July 28th date hits, it'd be interesting to see what other places that this Blu-ray will be available, whether it goes to stores or not, or it'll be available in some more marketplaces. I don't think Amazon is shipping copies or anything like that just yet, but I do know that a lot of people had early access through Right Stuf and Discotek's eBay page, oddly enough, which is where I picked up a copy early. I'm still waiting on 2 copies that I had went ahead and pre-ordered. One of those copies is going to go to a gentleman that lives in India that's a huge fan of the dub, and then I'll be keeping the other copy for just a backup or to give away at some point. So let's talk about that a little bit. So the early release, it's very interesting because Right Stuf will do this. It's almost pretty normal at this point for them to put out a piece of media and do it early. They've done it in the past too when I've ordered from them, and most of what I've ordered from them in the past was Case Closed related in seasons 4 and 5 when those came out. It's, 12 years ago, and same with the movies when those were coming out, movies 3 through 6 that I ordered through them. So they are notoriously, over the years, have shipped product early, and I don't think that is an accident on this in this particular occasion either, because, Discotek themselves, was setting up a page on eBay and selling it, and it's sold out twice on eBay through their page, albeit with limited copies available. They've sold 21 copies on eBay, and they only have 4 left, and that might be the end of what they will ship through the early release window. That's what I suspect anyway. I think that's why they only made a limited number of copies available. Right Stuf, on the other hand, I think is fully stocked and ready to go. And I really want to talk about Right Stuf for a minute, because Case Closed Episode 1 has really, so far, from what we've seen in the sales, which we don't have physical numbers, obviously, we just have, if you want to look at actual numbers, all you have are the eBay numbers from Discotek, where it shows they've sold 21 copies as of June 29th as I'm recording this podcast. But what's really interesting about it is it has peaked at number 6, and we had posted a picture of this last week, peaked to number 6 on their top-selling, not just Blu-rays, but their top-selling items in general. And that was 2 weeks ago. So, and that's before it was even starting to ship out to folks, and people were starting to get it early. So, the odd thing about this is, people, and I was thinking about this before I came on to the podcast today, I really have a sense that the people who buy the manga here in the States, who maybe didn't like the anime or didn't give the anime a try, 15 plus years ago, are looking at it now and saying, oh, well, I've been doing so much reading on this series and everything now. I never really watched the old dub or anything, but this is pretty cool, and this is could be like an introduction for me, and I think a lot of people that have not seen it or bought it before are buying it now. And this is, there's going to be a lot of things that come out about this release, and as people talk about the past, and I'm really wanting to put some of that information to bed. The big thing was that it didn't do well at Funimation, that it was a flop, and that it was unsuccessful, and that it didn't do well. That's not true, guys, and that not necessarily. Remember how we've talked about it over the years, that it didn't do poorly, but it did not live up to the cost of a license, which was a premium license. It cost a lot of money to buy this show and produce this show. I really want the perception that it was a huge failure here in the States it needs to kind of go away, and that needs to be put to bed, because a lot of this came from Funimation Funimation's own mouth, in the sense, and really primarily Justin Rojas back in the day, that it didn't do bad, didn't do poorly, but it didn't live up to the cost of the license. It would have had to be like a Dragon Ball Z sort of hit to probably be a profitable product. That is what I take away from it, okay? Now, did it do well on Adult Swim? No. It left Adult Swim in terrible ratings. Everybody tries to say, well, it's because they had the 4:30 and 5 a.m. slot. Well, that did come later. I'm not going to put the failure of Case Closed on Adult Swim. It actually did have a pretty good time slot for a long time. Here's what's different, though, about when Funimation controlled the series, and now with TMS much more involved than they ever have been. We've been talking a little bit. If you saw my interview with Joe Murray, you have to understand, between 2003 and really, I would say, up until when Funimation had the license for the series here in the States, TMS was very hands-off. I mean, TMS licensed this stuff out to these companies like Odex, who did the Singapore Detective Conan dub, which went for 52 episodes in English, and then Funimation had licensed it from TMS, and then did the 130 episodes and produced the 6 movies, and acquired all that at one time, never renewed at any point to pick up more. This was in the original contract, that they would do the first 130 episodes and acquired all 6 movies at the same time. So people that think 3 through 6 came later because they acquired them later, that's not true. That's just simply not true. What's different about this, and this is what makes this being a success way more now than before, is that it doesn't have to be a crazy, it doesn't have to sell like it had to sell with Funimation. And let me tell you why. Because TMS is not licensing this out to a Funimation to produce, and a company is not having to physically buy this from TMS. What this tells me, as somebody who's been following this as well, all of this, is that TMS is more likely to get more of the profits this time around with the series, which is why it's very vital that this does do at least very, very well. That's why you'll see me throughout, the day or in the coming weeks, even since this has been shipping early, posting links to where you can pick it up, where you can buy it. Information in this whole thing is really key, guys. Having access to this stuff and knowing this is where I need to go, this is my options, this is where I can purchase it. And it's priced very, very well. Amazon has it priced at $29.95, way too expensive. Most of Discotek's media that they're putting out for Lupin is $19-20 for a Blu-ray. Case Closed falls into that range as well. They just came off of a sale where it was going on sale for $17.97, and that was when they were shipping early, and they did that for a week. I think Case Closed benefited extremely well from that. And a lot of people were speculating on Facebook that, well, maybe it's not doing well because it's already getting a sale. No. That was Discotek's catalog of Blu-rays and DVDs that were on sale. So make no mistake about it. This is selling. It has been on the top sellers. It's been as high as number 6 on overall items. It is now, as of June 29th, back on a top seller list for Right Stuff in Blu-ray format. And it is right there in the running as one of the top-selling Blu-ray animes that they have right now. So make no mistake about it. This is doing well, but everybody has to support this. Fans that have listened to our podcast for a long time, and people that have gone out and bought all the other content when Funimation was producing it. This is a special time if you're wanting more Case Closed here in America, and obviously we've spearheaded this as well and really tried to educate people on what happened with the series, and how Funimation didn't do anymore, and how they just ended up losing or dropping the license. This is a huge opportunity, especially with TMS being much more hands-on and much more involved than they were before. They really have so much say this time around. And, using the original names, which I know a lot of people didn't like the English localization. A lot of that was not Funimation's fault. Gosho Aoyama really wanted a localization for it here in the States anyways. So a lot of that was done basically to his request. Now, how they came up with the names and everything, I couldn't begin to even tell you how that happened. It'd be fun to find out, obviously, and I would love to if that opportunity came. But now we're going back to the original. And I think what's cool about this is, they are using the Case Closed name, but they are really using it's got more of that Japanese Detective Conan feel to it. And I have to tell you, when I'm watching episode 1, Case Closed episode 1, I do notice a lot of just really, really good moments where line delivery is spot on. I thought when I watched, episode 1 this time around, and I've watched it about 3 times now in the dub, I still feel like Jin kind of stole the show as far as voicing. And Jin is now voiced by DC Douglas and just does a fantastic job. Now, I'm getting off on a little tangent there because I just wanted to highlight how great his performance was. We'll get back to more of the special here in a little bit. But what does this release really mean for Case Closed Detective Conan going forward? Well, we do know that Anime Expo in 2019, they showed movie 22, Zero the Enforcer, in an English dub, and did it in a 4DX experience. It was an awesome display. Obviously, we got to talk to V-Lord, who got to go out there and view it, and it was fantastic. I'm so jealous. I wish I could have been there. I would give anything to have gone, really. And then a few months later at Chara Expo, they premiered this episode 1, and then movie 21, The Crimson Love Letter. So we have to assume, as long as this release continues to do well and we continue to buy, pretty realistic that movie 21 and 22 are going to be released because they have already been shown at these expos. And what I really think that this means for the series is, there's some people that are, they could do the TV series, or, they could do this, they could do that. Really, we got to look at the films right now. The fact that they did episode 1, that was a TV special, and that was a remake of the first episode and added some things. They could do more specials. They can definitely do more movies. I think right now, it's all up in the air, and I think right now the fans have more control of what is going to happen with this property more than they probably ever have. I'm a big believer that Funimation's mind was made up after 2010, that they were just done with the series and they were going to coop as much profit as they can to make back their original investment. It would have had to have taken off from 2010 and become like a huge hit for them to even consider doing it longer. So I'm a big believer in that, but now it's with TMS, who obviously it's near and dear to them, and obviously they are paying these other companies to go ahead, like Bang Zoom, to do the voice work, and then from that license Discotek to go ahead and do the release. But a lot of that means that they control how it's done, probably even have a lot of say on who is cast in certain roles, if they don't like somebody. Because I think this is a review process all the way around for them to make sure that the property is being handled the way they want it to this time around, instead of companies dictating to them, well, here's the product and here it is and it's out there. I think you're going to see that a lot more with them, and they may not openly say that, but based on the fact that they're spearheading this, there's definitely TMS people overlooking this project, even as Bang Zoom is recording. And really, so what this release in short means, before I go off on another tangent, is that I really believe that this is a situation where movie 21 and 22 will be released. I don't know when. It could be this year, next year. And really, based on how those movies do, I think that will tell us, do we get more movies? I think we need to focus on the movies because there's so many of them. We really haven't seen any movies since really movies 1 through 6 came out from Funimation. Now, if Discotek is licensed more movies to go ahead and release on physical media, there could be more that we just don't know. Darkest Nightmare has been a rumor on Reddit for the last few months that they could be doing movie 20. That wouldn't be surprising, honestly. It wouldn't be terribly surprising if they were doing Darkest Nightmare. If the movies do well, it'd be nice to see them go back and do some of the old ones, like Crossroads and the Ancient's Capital, or The Raven Chaser, or Magician of the Silver Sky. These would be awesome movies for them to go back and consider releasing, especially if these initial releases, definitely with movie 21 and 22 coming out, hopefully on Blu-ray soon. If those do well, it'd be really nice to see them dig back into the catalog and do some of the old films that were never dubbed before. Now, when they do that, very much like Lupin, I doubt you'll see those in succession to one another. They'll probably jump around, if in the best case scenario, and do a movie here, a movie there. It could be 12 and 16, or 16 and 8, or 9 and 13. You never know what they could acquire. But it's really up to us as the fans to decide how this is going to go this time around. And the fact that it is doing so well on Right Stuff, and that Discotek is selling it through eBay, through their own page, and through their own means, it's fantastic. This whole process has been really, really good. But I have to say, it's not over yet. We've got to continue to spearhead this on our side, just like TMS is spearheading it, and decide with our wallets that we're going to pick up this release. So, going forward, what does this mean? What could happen? Anything at this point. Like I say, the movies are a big thing, but I also believe that if it does incredibly, incredibly well, you could see certain episodes be dubbed as well. Who's to say they don't eventually do a best of Detective Conan, or a limited release of some of the episodes that are important to the story? That's all very possible. Those are very down the line sorts of expectations, I believe. I believe right now the biggest thing that we have to do as a community is get behind this one release, go buy this one release, and get prepared for the next release. And get ready to go purchase that as well. We probably won't see it for another 3 to 4 months if there is another one this year. And if not, maybe movie 21 and 22 will come out during 2021. And that could be a big year as well, seeing 2 new dubbed movies come out in the same year, as we haven't seen a movie even released over here since movies 1 through 6 came out. So this could be a huge thing for the series here in the States going forward. We already know that this dub has been shown in some other countries as far as movie 22, so this has been mostly positioned as more of an international dub this time around. So this is all very, very important, guys. Really got to stress to you that, don't sit on this. Don't be like, oh, I'm a fan, I love it, and then don't go buy it. Come up with the $20. I'm urging you to come up with the $20. If you love Case Closed, go out and buy this release. We're going to have links in the description where you can pick this up through eBay and through Right Stuff. So we'll go Right Stuff and then eBay. We'll give you a couple links where you can pick it up. Definitely let me know what you think. I really want to briefly, before I go, I'd really like to talk about this cast that we have in this special. I'm not going to do a complete breakdown of episode 1 in this particular podcast, but I want to talk about some of the names that I thought just really killed it in their dub appearance. With this, it was Griffin Burns came on and was Shinichi, did a fantastic job. Loved him even more in this than I did in parts of movie 22 that I had seen. Wendy Lee as Conan really, really seemed more at home with the character this time around. It gives me a sense movie 22 was kind of everybody's first go-around with this. I'm not sure, but it kind of seems that way. But she seems incredibly at home with the character. Xander Mobus as Mori Kogoro, much improved in this, even more so than movie 22. Some of the dialogue, I think, from that was a little strange. Not his fault. He's a fantastic voice actor. But really hit it this time. I was like, oh yeah, I could see him doing Mori for years and years to come and be great with that. And he grew up as a fan of the series himself from what I'm reading on Twitter. So loved his performance in this, even though we didn't see him a whole lot. If he's the new Mori, I'm all in going forward because he's awesome in that role. And really got a shout out to Gin and Vodka's voice actors. Michael Bosco as Vodka and DC Douglas as Gin. Just awesome. really played off each other very, very well in this film. And I really wanted to give them some, good honorable mentions. We see a lot of characters appear in this, and so we see, there was a couple of cases where we had the same voice actor doing two different characters. Keith Silverstein doing Yasuko Kudo and Akai Shuichi at the end, who had just a couple of lines. Of course, y'all know how big of an Akai fan I am, so anytime Akai has something to say, and the fact that it came out in English officially for the first time, that's pretty life-changing for me. So I don't know about you, but Akai's my favorite, probably my favorite character in all of anime, period. He's just that awesome to me. So obviously, before I go on another rant, I'm going to go ahead and sign off today, guys. I have a lot to discuss as far as this release going forward. On our next episode, we're going to go ahead and do a full breakdown review. We're going to name every single cast member that is relevant as far as main character, and we're going to really, really break it down. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in today to the Case Closed podcast, and we'll see you next time. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode of the Case Closed podcast. If you like what you heard here, head on over to our Facebook and Twitter page to give us a like and a follow. And for more extra special content that you can't get anywhere else, subscribe to our Patreon page. Take care, guys, and we'll see you later.